All right, hello. This is Broke Not Broken podcast. My name is Konstantin. This is my brother Kirill, and as we promised in our last video, we brought a new guest, someone more interesting than us, to our studio. He worked at Rad Pad company, which failed, and we're gonna discuss Rad Pad today. So, hello. What was the company name? What did it do?
So I worked at Rad Pad. So Rad Pad was a real estate listing company, which evolved into a general real estate platform. So they had a lot of real estate listings that users could search. After searching the listing, they could find a place that they were interested in renting, and then we had a mechanism where users could contact the landlord, arrange to see the place. After they arranged to see the place, they could decide to sign a lease through Rad Pad. So before that, they would have to get their credit checked, send their credit check to the landlord, and then afterwards they could go through a lease signing process. And after they signed the lease, they could then pay rent through Rad Pad. So the idea was to become an end-to-end marketplace for real estate rentals. And we slowly built up different parts of that service.
All right. So, what was your role in the company?
So I joined a little bit later after the company was founded. Pay with Rad Pad was already created, and I joined as a software architect. I mainly worked on the back-end API, which was built using Ruby on Rails.
All right. So, what were the major events that brought the company to failure then?
So I would say that there was two main things that brought the company to failure. One was a lawsuit from Craigslist, and that was probably the primary cause. And the second one was a high burn rate. So as a result of the burn rate, Rad Pad ran out of money. But it was really a combination of those two factors that caused Rad Pad to fail. Because Rad Pad had raised a total of $12.8 million, and they had a lot of employees, so they were running out of money. So they needed to raise a Series B. And I think we had shown that the product was capable of succeeding, but there needed to be an infusion of capital in order for it to continue and to pick up its business. But then the problem was we needed to raise a Series B round of funding, and a $60 million lawsuit landed from Craigslist.
Yeah.
So given that the company had only raised $12.8 million to date, and we were probably looking for $20 to $25 million in a Series B round, a $60 million lawsuit from Craigslist was absolutely disastrous.
So what was the actual legal accusation of the company? What did the company do wrong that led to the lawsuit?
So there was three things that were named in the lawsuit. So it was a $60 million lawsuit. The biggest component of that was a violation of CAN spam. So we were accused of sending emails without unsubscribed links, and that violated CAN spam. So there was 100,000 such emails that were sent, and the penalty that was assessed was $400 per email. That came out to a total of $40 million. And two other components in that was the remaining $20 million.
We're not going to go into the details of the lawsuit because it's not our focus, just letting you know.
So the next question we have is, how did Craigslist find out that you were spamming essentially their users? How did it air, or at least what's the version?
So I'm not 100% sure about everything that happened, but the story that was kind of floating around was that there was a bug in our code, and that bug in our code caused one landlord to receive 250 emails. And as a result of those emails, the landlord complained to Craigslist, and after complaining to Craigslist looked into it apparently, and then filed the lawsuit. The thing that I found a little bit weird is when I looked at the code, just briefly, because I wasn't involved in actually reviewing that code or writing that code, it didn't seem like there was anything in that code that could cause that type of issue to occur. So I'm not 100% certain about everything.
Some shady stuff going on.
So what was the decision that was made that potentially caused you scraping this or not complying to the regulations or whatever? I can see you contacting Craigslist and saying, we are doing this, can we do this? Basically, what was done which caused you to get the goddamn lawsuit?
It's a good question. And so I think there was a lot of interactions that led us to this road. So one thing that happened is I'd worked at Hallmark previously, and as a result of working there, I'd learned about things like hand spam and various regulations that one needs to comply with. So the CEO had asked us to send these emails to landlords in an attempt to basically get landlords that post on Craigslist to also have their listings on Rad Pad. Now the thing is that these listings were only 4% of our total volume of listings, so it wasn't a big component of Rad Pad's listings.
Mm-hmm.
And I had recommended to our CEO that maybe we shouldn't do things in exactly this way, and that we shouldn't do things that violated can spam because it could result in a potential fine of $1,000 per email. And what he basically said is, it's late, it's Friday, I don't want to do it anymore, and I got the hand.
Just deploy it. We'll deal with this later.
The company that raised 12.8 million died. It died because the boss was tired and it was Friday. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's how companies die.
I mean, there's a little bit more to that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kidding.
He basically said also, a lot of people scrape Craigslist,
Yeah.
but just the fact that there was no discussion and it ended, and then it turned out that this is what eventually killed the company, means that it was like a critical aspect.
Right, and I just imagine myself being like in that place, and like you also have a Friday. It's not just the boss who has the Friday, right? So you're like, what, fuck that. Let's
move on.
Let's just click the button and get to the weekend.
No, it was unfortunate because everyone did work very late and very long hours, and for something to happen based on such a singular event was a shame.
Okay, so the next is, how exactly did you find out about the lawsuit?
It was interesting because initially it was a little bit hush-hush. The lawsuit wasn't exactly filed, but there was some understanding that perhaps it would be filed. Now, the person that I first found out about it from was Tom McInnery. So there was a claim that he was the first investor of Rad Pad and that he had initially invested the first $200,000 and then a follow-on round of $600,000 to $800,000. And he often came to the company. He was there. He spoke a lot with the CEO, Jonathan Eppers, and he spoke with some of the other people in the company. He often invited like very successful people. One of them was the founders of GoodRx, who...
What do you mean invited?
Well, he would invite speakers to come and talk to us about building companies, about running companies, things like how do you recruit employees, how do you do certain things. And some of these were very successful people. One of the people was an early employee of Facebook who later went on to found GoodRx. So he was a prominent speaker. Another one was a founder of Clout, and that was also a prominent founder that came to speak about his founding of Clout. So like that, Tom had invited multiple people. He also invited one of the founders of MySpace to come and speak. So these were very interesting talks, some of which were companies that failed and some of which were companies that were extremely successful. And he was a successful investor and was able to get these founders because he invested in their companies at an early stage, much like he invested in Rad Pad. The thing that was kind of interesting, though, is a lot of online sources had attributed the early investments in Rad Pad to someone else. But everyone knew Tom as the first investor, and some of the online sources quoted him as being an investor that came on a little later.
Some shady stuff again.
So just like a question, why do you think that person would like lie about being the first, if they did lie?
I'm not sure about that. Okay. It might just be that some of the online sources were incorrect and had inaccurately quoted him as being a later investor when he was an early investor.
Yeah, probably saying like lied is a little bit too loud because we don't really know the details.
Maybe misrepresented.
Yeah, so
something misunderstood.
Yeah, you have also mentioned the high burn rate as like one of the two major reasons why it failed. So can you like elaborate a little bit on that? Because it just sounds like,
I
60
think
million.
he just screwed up. Kirill, you screwed up because he did elaborate right when he said it. He was talking about we're gonna cut this part out because in the very beginning, Kirill, he was talking about the necessity of raising additional funds. That killed them.
Mhm.
He said
I could-
it.
High burn
there's maybe
rate.
some
High burn rate.
aspects of the high burn rate that I didn't talk about. I mean,
Okay.
so
Alright.
I'm just going over the questions. I'm like a
Exactly,
robot,
Kirill, Exactly. You're not supposed to.
Okay,
do that.
okay.
So let me maybe expand on that. Might be interesting. So Rad Pad, at the end, towards its end, had a little over 30 employees. So at a salary rate of like a little over 100,000 or about 100,000, that would mean that our burn rate was 3.3 to 3.5 million with other expenses such as server costs and legal fees and other things like that. Maybe our burn rate was 4+ million a year. In addition to that, we spent a lot of money on marketing because the service wasn't necessarily viral. We had to market to a lot of people that they should go to Rad Pad in order to find a place.
Right.
And as a result of that entire process, they burned through the 12.8 million that they had raised. This was over a period of multiple years. And they were in a position where they just weren't generating enough revenue to sustain all the employees that they had. Pay with Rad Pad was extremely successful, but most of the money we took in, we paid back out. Only thing that we collected was a small percentage fee on processing the rent payments, but that wasn't enough to sustain the business. So we had goals of expanding into basically doing leases. So the idea is someone would sign a lease through Rad Pad. We also did credit checks. So that entire ecosystem would eventually generate revenue. And we demonstrated that it would generate revenue, we just weren't able to scale that up fast enough. So had we gotten the Series B, we probably would have been able to scale that up, but having a $60 million lawsuit makes it very hard to raise a Series B. So that's why I think the high burn rate
So there's the lawsuit,
was such a big issue.
there's the high burn rate, but we Googled the company and it's still there, the website's still up.
That's
Like,
true.
how's that possible?
What ended up happening is, after the lawsuit, after they ran out of money, the story is that basically they were going into bankruptcy. And then at that point, Rad Pad was acquired by LandlordStation for an undisclosed amount. It would actually be very interesting to know what that amount is, but since I wasn't a part of that and since I didn't work at LandlordStation afterwards, I don't know what the undisclosed amount was. They were acquired. And as I had said earlier, like, the product was viable. It just needed time to scale and grow. Because of the lawsuit, that wasn't possible. So then what happened is they were acquired. LandlordStation integrated it with their own technology and then kind of grew that rental payments business. And after that, they were acquired again by a company that was public, and then they're now traded on NASDAQ as a part of that larger joint entity, and I think the market cap is $500+ million. So the fact that a public company has taken that product and is still running with that product and is growing and developing that product shows that there was some aspect of that product that was a viable product.
So yeah.
And it was great kind of working with that team as well.
Right, so behind every product there's like a team. So, I mean, I work too, right? So I'm just interested at like how, like what were the interactions like and what was the productivity like? Like, did you think that the team was productive?
Yes. So I think there might have been some problems in leadership, some of which brought on the lawsuit, but the team which built out that product was great. And I think they were exceptional. They worked incredibly hard. They developed the right skills to build and iterate things very fast, which is what allowed us to find the different aspects of the product that did work. And the product got built, and I think a testament of the team is the fact that the product is still alive even though the company died. It didn't work out for investors, but the product lived on.
So just a little more of like the technical questions, I guess. How much do you think? So I think you mentioned something like the the team went with like the tech that they like chose, like how much do you think the tech actually influences? Like how much do you think the frameworks that you mentioned Ruby on Rails, right?
Sure.
And I've heard like, what comes, like, did Reddit start out with Ruby on Rails, or was it?
I'm not sure. I mean, Twitter started out with Ruby on Rails.
But basically, what I'm trying to get at is like, what do you think it's like critical to choose the right framework? And when you chose the frameworks that you did choose, were they already like the mainstream, like very mainstream or not?
That's an excellent question, and I think a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on this. I think for us, Ruby on Rails was a great framework to choose. One of the things about Ruby on Rails is it allows for very rapid iteration. It's true, and it also does scale. The thing about Ruby on Rails is it requires more servers to handle requests. But if there's a solid underlying business, it's possible to scale up the number of servers. We're not like Facebook. We didn't have to like process requests for micro pennies. We were able to afford the servers and the requests that they processed because behind every request, there was some sort of underlying transaction. People would search with the goal of kind of finding listings. Then after they found the listings, they would potentially try to do leases. We were able to monetize that, and then they would do credit checks before they actually signed for the listings, and we were able to monetize that because we had a agreement with TransUnion. In addition to that, there's Pay with Rad Pad, and we were able to collect a small percentage fee on the paying with the Rad Pad. So because of that, the technology that we used and the fact that maybe you need more servers to handle the request wasn't a big deal. We weren't Facebook, so we didn't need the ultra level of scalability that Facebook needed. So for us, I think Ruby on Rails was a good choice.
But not super extra important. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up
Nothing is
here.
important when it comes to programming concepts.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I didn't understand anything from what he said. But anyways, we're gonna wrap it up here because we're running out of time. And so, summary of what happened: they went bankrupt because there was a lawsuit, and because the burn rate was high. If the burn rate was lower, they could have delayed the lawsuit and just keep generating revenue and keep living till the moment where they were actually able to pay out the lawsuit. The lawsuit was caused by the weird actions of the CEO and of some weird event that actually triggered Craigslist to look into it. The case where they sent 250 emails to one person.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So yeah, everyone is afraid of Mondays, but you should be afraid of Fridays.
right. And yeah, but the product is still alive, so the product was good, though the company died. That's pretty much it. We're gonna try to process this video throughout the week and make a new one next week.
Yeah,
Right.
hopefully.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks.
and good
It
luck.
was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Good
Oh,
luck
by the
with your own
way,
company.
we forgot
Hold on, God
to
damn
mention it. He has a new company starting. I mean, not starting. How long do you work on your current company?
So I was often working on it part-time. So it was first founded in 2015, in August of 2015, but then because I was working on it part-time, it took a really long time to get it going.
You want to give some like introduction into what it does?
The company's called ExactNote, and
Exact note.
it's basically oriented around annotating various things on the internet and curating the content that comes from these annotations.
And I actually use it. Kirill uses it too, and it's pretty good. We're gonna leave the link under the video so you can check it out.